I'm joined now by the Governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. Governor, thanks so much for taking the time.
It's great to be with you, Brian. Thanks, man.
So you have an announcement that I want to give the floor to you for on an issue that I've been particularly focused on.
Absolutely. At a time when we were watching Donald Trump commence this assault, and not just this assault on our state, but honestly, this assault on our democracy. I have said, and I will continue to say, that Maryland will not just sit on its hands while Donald Trump continues to pick and choose which states have fair maps and which states don't, when we know he's just trying to rig the rules because he knows it's the only way for him to win an election. And so I have ordered the creation of a governor's redistricting advisory committee here in the state of Maryland, where I have assembled a group of bipartisan leaders, which is going to be chaired by Senator Angela Alsobrooks, who is going to spend time listening to Marylanders and going all around and hearing where Marylanders are on this issue, but with a very firm understanding that come next November in Maryland, we will have fair maps. And as all these states are going through their process of deciding whether or not they have fair maps or not, I'm here to say that so will Maryland.
So this is great news. And it sounds like, because you had mentioned that this would be in place for November of 2026, that things are getting off right now, that this will actually count for the upcoming midterm election cycle. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. The work commences immediately. And so the committee is already now working, pulling together what they need to ensure that we can understand where the maps are in Maryland and making sure that the people have a right to come next November, truly have the representation that represents their interests and not allowing Donald Trump to just simply rig elections. And so in this time, I've decided that I'm not going to spend my time nor intellectual energy trying to say why we cannot move, but we are going to spend our time and our intellectual energy actually moving and making sure that the people of our state, that their voices are heard.
We've seen a lot of different avenues taken by different governors or different states. Here in California, we have Prop 50 on the ballot. In Virginia, the state legislature already moved to pass a bill in one session. Of course, we need 2 consecutive sessions for that to be a change to the Constitution. But there are different avenues being tried in different states in accordance with whatever their state's laws are. Why did you opt to go the committee route in Maryland?
Yeah, because the reason that I ordered the Governor's Redistricting Advisory Commission is because this is a necessary and important first step that we have to be able to take. Because the thing that we know is that in order for lines to be drawn in our state, it requires legislative approval. And so I'm just using my power as the governor to say, let's make sure that that legislative process is informed. Let's make sure that legislative process is actually backed by the will of the people. Let's make sure that legislative process actually addresses the challenges that I think exist. Because what people have to remember is that the legislative maps that we have right now in the state of Maryland were actually drawn in 3 days. And if you look at the congressional maps that we have around the country, less than 10% of congressional seats are actually competitive. And that includes what we see now in the state of Maryland. And so I think it is absolutely high time that Maryland say that if these other states are going to take a look at this in a mid-cycle, mid-decade process, then the state of Maryland should do the exact same thing. And so I would argue that the process that we will have here coming out of the GRAC will be even more thorough than even what we saw from the last time that Maryland took a look at its maps.
Now, I've been speaking about Maryland quite a bit because there is one legislator in the state legislature over there in Maryland who has presented himself as a bulwark, and that's Bill Ferguson. To what extent will he serve as an impediment to the advisory commission being able to do its work successfully?
Well, I've actually asked Senator Ferguson to be a member of the commission. And so I've asked him, I've asked the Speaker of the House, Adrian Jones. We're also going to have our former Attorney General, Brian Farr, serving the commission, as well as the Republican Mayor of Cumberland. And so this is going to be a bipartisan commission where we know that we're going to get to the right answer for the people of the state of Maryland. And the thing that I know with Senator Ferguson is that, we agree that we are in a crisis moment. We agree that we are watching this assault from Donald Trump that is having not just economic implications on the state of Maryland in a way that is not hitting any other state, but also an assault on our democracy. That we have seen how Donald Trump has now fired over 15,000 federal workers in the state of Maryland alone since he's been in office, that we've seen a federal government shutdown that has taken place now for over a month, that has had significant impacts, not just on the people of this country, but specifically for the state of Maryland, because I have over 260,000 federal workers inside of my state. And so the Senate president and I agree that we are in a crisis. I think what I want to be able to show is I have an urgency in the way we are dealing with this crisis. And I have an aggression in the way we are saying that we are going to defend our democracy, and we are not going to allow Donald Trump to pick and choose which states go through redistricting processes. So I have a very real sense of not just urgency, but a very real focus on making sure that in this moment, Maryland will not bend the knee to Donald Trump. We will go through our process too and ensure that we have fair maps come next November.
And I could just say from my part, and this is like my personal opinion on this, is that I do hope that when this advisory committee comes together and Bill Ferguson is on it, that he recognizes that it is important here not just to say that we stand for good governance and that we should expect that to just happen in a vacuum, that we have to be realistic about the threats that we're confronting right now. And that is that we live in a binary system. It is one side is fighting, and we can either choose to do nothing, we can either capitulate, or we can fight back. And so we don't get to choose a third option. And unfortunate though that may be. And so I hope that he's seeing the urgency of this moment right now, not giving excuses as to why we can't yet get to yes, but finding ways to get to yes in light of, the attacks on our democracy that we're contending with at the hands of Republicans. And this is not theoretical. We have seen this happen in Texas. We have seen the maps get redrawn in North Carolina. We've seen the maps get redrawn in Ohio. We've seen them get redrawn in Missouri. And so we can choose to do nothing and just hope that we can appeal to our better angels, but the reality of the situation is that it's happening. We live in a binary system, and if you don't choose to do anything, then you're basically giving a green light for Republicans to engineer a permanent majority in the House forever. And so this is the time to fight back. And so I hope that he uses his seat on that commission smartly and does the right thing that actually meets the urgency of the moment that we're in right now.
Well, and I agree, Brian, that we are in a situation that I agree in theory. I don't like gerrymandering. I think gerrymandering is abhorrent in theory. But the reality is I don't live in the theoretical. I live in the reality. I live in the reality right now that Donald Trump is trying to rig the system right in front of our faces. And I cannot stand and sit back while we're allowing this to take place. And by trying to rig the system, he is looking at the pain that his administration has caused, the fact that everything is more expensive, the fact that we are watching healthcare being pulled away from our people, the fact that he is trying to take away food assistance for our children until we sued him and actually ended up beating him and winning in court. So now so a judge is now forcing Donald Trump to do his job. But we are watching this pain that he is inflicting. But what the president is trying to do by trying to rig the system is he's trying to make the pain permanent. And we cannot allow that to happen. That I agree that in this moment we have an absolute obligation. And while I look forward to working, with the Senate president, I also know that this is a big body, and I look forward to working with him and all of the other members of the Maryland General Assembly to ensure that we in this moment in Maryland understand the assignment and understand what this moment requires.
And I would also add, I also think that gerrymandering is abhorrent, and I think we also have to recognize, though, that Republicans had the opportunity to pass legislation along with the Democrats for the People Act that would ban partisan gerrymandering nationwide. Exactly. And the reality is, if they want to bring that legislation forward, I'm sure every single Democrat would support it. And so that's not to say that we don't recognize and abhor the scourge that is gerrymandering, but what we won't do that supersedes all of that is unilaterally disarm. And we've seen that unilateral disarmament happen across the country. The Democratic weapons are in large part California, New York, both have independent redistricting commissions, Colorado, independent redistricting commissions. Meanwhile, you've got states like Texas and Florida that not only don't have independent redistricting commissions, but are gerrymandering themselves on top of previous gerrymanders. So the call to action here is to recognize that we can't unilaterally disarm in light of what the Republicans are doing right now. With that said, given the action that you're taking in Maryland, what would your message be to other governors who've not yet stepped up and recognized the place that they have in this broader fight?
My message to everybody is take a stand. Understand what's at stake right now. And I believe deeply that history will not remember this federal administration well. History will remember them for the cruelty and the brutality that they have inflicted upon upon the people of this country. They will remember this attempt at trying to completely destroy our democracy. History will not remember this administration well. But I will say to all those who are choosing to capitulate, to all those who are just choosing to sit on your hands, to all those who are just sitting in the corner and hoping that the beating stops, my message to all of them is this: history will remember you even worse. That this becomes a moment for us to use our voice. This is a moment for us to remember the type of foundations that we stand on, the type of shoulders that we stand on, that there are people who came before us who are hoping at this moment that we don't blink. And there are people who are going to come after us who are hoping that we don't bend the knee. And this becomes our moral obligation, our legal obligation for all of us who have the honor of sitting in these seats in these moments. People are looking at us and wondering, do we understand what is at stake? And I am very proud to say that in the state of Maryland, we are showing that we don't just understand, but that we're unafraid to lead in this moment.
Perfectly put. One more question here on a slightly different topic, and that is the fact that just a few days ago, we saw Trump engage in his Great Gatsby party at Mar-a-Lago. We watched as he remarbled the Lincoln bathroom. We watched as he's, of course, continuing to build his $350 million ballroom, continues to encrust the Oval Office in gold leafing, hosts these crypto dinners where he's doubled his net worth, is retrofitting a Qatari jet to the tune of $1 billion that, of course, American taxpayers are paying for, bought Kristi Noem a pair of Gulfstream jets to the tune of a cool $172 million. And so in light of all of these instances of opulence that Trump is surrounding himself with, what do you say, given the fact that at the same time, we're seeing this administration go down this path where they are depriving SNAP recipients across the country of the food assistance they need to survive, where, of course, this administration has ripped Medicaid away from 17 million Americans, where they have left the fate of healthcare for those who rely on ACA subsidies for 24 million Americans in doubt, and they may very well see their healthcare subsidies double, triple, quadruple, or even more. And so given that disparity, what is your message in light of what we're seeing right now?
No, I think, as Maya Angelou said, when someone tells you who they are the first time, believe them. The same time that we are watching ballrooms being built, I was spending my time in Louis, Maryland, at a food bank, and meeting with a mother who is going through cancer treatments, who was explaining that she now had to go to her children for help because she said she could not make this and do this on her own. That at the same time that he was at Great Gatsby dinners, that he's throwing in honor of himself. That I was actually meeting with the people who are running mobile food units, who are spending their time around military bases, because there are people, military personnel, who now are on food stamps and need those in order to survive. People who are willing to put on the uniform, people who are willing to put the flag of this country on their shoulder, people who frankly were willing to take an oath that the president was not willing to take, who now are on food stamps. That this is real for people. Just 2 days ago, speaking with a parent of a child with special needs, who is now concerned that all supports that she has to be able to support her child are going to be yanked away by this administration so billionaires can get a tax cut. So this is not just going to stop just because. The beatings will not stop if we sit quiet.
Yeah. This
is a time when people need to understand that leadership is going to matter. And again, my background is I'm a soldier. That's what I did before I ever thought about running for office just a couple of years ago. And so when you are attacked, you do not just sit there and take it, you mobilize. And that is the thing that I want for the people of this country to do. It is to mobilize and to understand what is at stake, and to understand that if we do not push back, it will get worse. And the only way this stops, the only way we can break the trend, is by showing that there is a different direction, there's a different path that we can go, and that we have to protect our people, because that protection is not going to come from the Trump administration.